Different teachers engage students in different ways. In a flipped course, in-class engagement strives to accomplish three things. First, we respond to questions that we know students still have after doing out-of-class work. Second, we require students to apply course concepts in concrete problem-solving and decision-making activities. And third, we leverage the power of students working together to teach each other.
So an average day starts with me getting up in the morning and seeing a whole pile of data from Quest, what the students got and what they didn't get. There are some equations I really want you to know, all right? I don't want to recite every single one of them, but they were derived in the learning modules that you watched for today. First of all, I'll walk into class, I'll put some very short notes on the document camera about what today is about. And I'll say, so I really want to address one of the big things that came up in the learning module last night, and here's a problem for you guys to work on. I want you to calculate the energy levels for the first 3 levels of a quantum dot whose size is 0.4 nanometers. I usually try to put a graduate TA in charge of several undergraduate TAs. Those undergraduate TAs, I try to talk to them quite extensively about how to go around and mill around the room. We talk about how to answer questions with questions or try to prompt students with what they do know, and then take that to the next step. That's hard. So P is h over lambda, or h bar k, right? But E is equal to something. What's that? 10 minutes go by. They've talked a lot. I can get a sense of where they're at, and then I'll go up to the front of the room, and either they'll solve it out, or I'll solve it for the class with some of their input. Squared. And you said the ground state for 2.35. Okay. And that allows for some discussion. And if I'm not rushing, then I'll hear lots of questions at that point, things they're still concerned about, and then we'll move on to the next problem. So 4 or 5 of these go by. And then I'll have a quiz.
You want to get every student as engaged as possible at every moment of the class, which is really hard to do. And peer discussion does that. Largely what works best is starting with some kind of prompt. And in my case, it was often an iClicker question. And say, okay, now talk to your neighbor about X. What I found worked best was pretty focused and give them about a minute. That sort of kept them on task. And then would have either a repoll or then a new poll would come up that actually dealt with the question. You can ask more complex questions, but just break them down into smaller parts.
I put the students into groups for the entire term. The way that I constructed them was to make them as diverse as possible. These teams are 6, 7 members each, and these teams are permanent. Keeping the teams together for the entire term, it creates a support system. They start to look out for each other. I give the students a quiz at the beginning of the unit, and they come into class the first day and they take a quiz, 20 points, multiple choice. Then, after they've done that, I put them in the groups. Each team retakes the same quiz, and they have a scratch-off.
Come on in.
That's wrong.
With the scratch-off thing, I actually liked the way that worked because you had to keep going until you got it right. And so you couldn't just like miss it and say, oh, forget it, we didn't get it. You know, you kind of had to, okay, well, if this isn't the case, now what?
I figure out which answers that most of the teams have gotten incorrect. And it's a class discussion. There's emphasis on you have to learn a certain number of facts, but more I'm interested in them learning the process of thinking through history, how to think like a historian does. The way I've done this is to create a kind of a large sheet, an 11 by 17 sheet, that has kind of steps that one needs to go through to think about this answer. Each of these documents basically is steps to writing a good essay. Is you spend lots of time actually talking, engaging students, and you can hear what they don't know and what they want more information on.